Hello, today I'm going to be interviewing you to discuss our differences in culture. Your culture being biracial, which is half white and half black, and mine being Hispanic. So, to begin, I'm going to ask you the first question, which is please share with me anything that comes to mind for you that informs you of your culture. And how did you come to know what you know about your culture?
I came to know about my culture from my dad. He wanted me to steer clear of my culture mainly because of the way that they acted. They're very obnoxious and they're just not a good type of people to surround yourself with. It just depends on the type of black person. It really was a questionable time for me because I didn't know who was what or what was what, so I just stayed clear of everybody. I didn't know how to be, but when I did, I really didn't want to be that type of person. So I judged myself to the point where I wouldn't even be close to being like that. But I was so afraid of talking too loud or being too much for my dad.
And your dad is because he's the black part, right? And
Yeah.
your mom's the white part.
Yeah.
Okay, just for clarification of the question. Um, is that it for that one?
Hmm.
So the second question, please share with me any stereotypes you have heard that have been shared about your culture.
So I've heard that they are very loud, very obnoxious. They are ghetto, bougie. They like expensive clothes, designer bags, stuff that means absolutely nothing, materialistic things.
Hmm.
And it's not true for everyone that's black, obviously, but for most people who take being black as like being awesome or like they're idolizing being ghetto or just like things that have nothing to do with being black. They're idolizing the wrong materialistic things and it makes a stereotype that's definitely not true, but it can be true if somebody makes it that way.
So yeah, the next question was, do you believe the stereotypes to be true? But you answer that in that first one. So you feel like you're talking a lot about the black side. So you feel like, do you feel because um, you are half black, half white, that the black is what you resonate with more just because it's more of the, I guess, the more like stereotypical or the more obvious race? Is that what you feel?
I feel like it was put on me at a young age because
Mm.
my mom acts that way. She acts like she's black. So she's like
It's
this
kind of like having
stereo
two black parents.
yeah, she's this
Okay.
stereotypical white girl where she wants to be associated with black people,
Hmm.
but unfortunately she's not. So she marries black,
Hmm.
and then once again has a black child,
Hmm.
and she thinks all of a sudden that she can act a certain way, be
It's like
loud.
she's indoctrinated to the
Yes,
race.
yes, she's got her nigga card.
Yeah. From him. Okay.
So I had to deal with that at a young age, and I didn't want to be perceived as that. My
Hmm.
dad wanted nothing to do with it, and he absolutely hated when my mom would do it. So
Yeah.
it was like, don't do this. You see that? Don't do it.
Yeah.
And I had to act as if I didn't see it, and it was okay. It was normal.
This is the norm.
Yeah.
Um, do you believe that you fit any of those stereotypes?
I believe at one point in my life I did fit those stereotypes to try to fit in, but um, I don't think that I'm like that anymore. Absolutely not, because of the moral capacity that I hold. Furthermore, the lack of judgment that I want towards me. I
Hmm.
still am self conscious, but it's not to the point of I'm going to change myself to make other people feel comfortable. I'm going to make myself feel comfortable before others.
And what emotions are present for you when you are treated as though you are a stereotype?
Um, at first, I feel angry, but then it's a familiar feeling because I've dealt with it once before, and that's where my insecurity came from is I have to act this way so that nobody will, even come close to saying anything to me.
Hmm.
But at another, point in my mind, I'm thinking, there are people who have dealt with that, moved on, and now they're accomplished business people, or,
Hmm.
they have their own business and they don't need to act this way. It was a childhood
Yeah.
thing that they let go of.
Yeah.
So I was afraid of those people who knew better. And that's what made me want to do better because I knew they were going to, at one point, expose me for
Hmm.
being insecure.
So right now we're gonna switch gears. We're gonna flip, and we're gonna talk about my culture. And I'm just gonna share with you some stereotypes that I've heard, and then the list of questions that I gave you is the three questions you'll ask me. So stereotypes that every Hispanic is illegal, that every Hispanic is either a field worker or a maid or a janitor. And that's just basically attributed to the fact that if they see Hispanic, they automatically make the assumption that they don't know English. And generally speaking, those professions are occupied by Hispanics that are here on visas and everything, and they don't really know English. So the stereotype, they just associate all Hispanics with that. Another one too is the way the family is, the family dynamic of Hispanics, that they're not very accepting of you if you are not Hispanic. Which, yes and no. I think that they're just very strong with their roots. It's easy. They're a very accepting, loving race, but they're very they feel very strongly about their culture. So if somebody were to disregard that, I think that's a huge stereotype for them, that they just kind of like, no, thank you. So yeah, those are stereotypes I've heard, and you can go ahead and ask me the questions.
So A, B, and C.
A, B, and C, yeah.
Do you believe the stereotypes to be true?
I do. Like for instance, the occupation thing, yes, because again, the reason the stereotype exists in the first place is because generally speaking, the majority of hotel maids, janitors, cleaning crews, basically, like cleaning crew at my work, they're completely Hispanic. They all speak only Spanish. That, yes, but as far as everyone being illegal, no, I don't believe that stereotype is true. Quite a few are here on work visas and everything. And in regards to the the family dynamic, yes, I do believe that stereotype is true, just because of how strongly they believe in it. But again, I still stand by them being very generally accepting race for other people. They give people a chance, but the way that they feel about their culture is very, very strongly. So anybody that were to I guess, disregard that in any way would just definitely not be a fan of theirs.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely true. Do you fit any of those stereotypes?
I do not. I a lot of my
Good enough.
Hispanic family makes fun of me because they think that I'm the gringa. They call me the white girl, the güera. I don't really believe in that. I fit the stereotype only of me being loving and accepting of everybody. Treat everybody pretty much the exact same with respect, even if it isn't given to me. So I would say no, I don't really even speak Spanish. Both of my parents are very fluent in it. I am not. So that's another thing. I definitely don't fit the stereotype. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't really believe that I fit a lot of my race. Actually, when I was in the military and I was active duty, a lot of people only knew that I was Hispanic because of my last name that was always on my uniform. Everybody looked at me. They said I sound white, I look white, I act white. So yeah.
What emotions are present for you when you were treated as though you were a stereotype?
I don't get bothered by it at all. I understand once people figure out I'm Hispanic, if my accent comes out and I start getting a different reaction. I get stereotyped. I mean, I have very short hair. So that's another stereotype I fall into. It's to each their own. If people want to be that way, they want to treat me a certain way. It absolutely doesn't bother me one bit. It doesn't bother me that I'm Hispanic and I'm called gringa or güera. Like, I know that's my Hispanics family teasing me. So yeah, none of that stuff is uncomfortable for me at all. And that was the last question for you to ask me. So what we're gonna do is switch back, and the last of this is gonna be me asking you a couple more questions. So the next question, from your point of view, what is the biggest difference or differences between us?
Um, it would probably be just I guess the family dynamic. Really, the men really are important, but so are the women.
Hmm.
It's hard to justify that with different, black people.
Yeah.
It just depends. But with Hispanics, I would say that's definitely something that's a firm, like, we're not moving on it, so that'd be the difference.
And from what point of view, what are the biggest similarity? What is the biggest similarity or similarities between us?
Um, it's probably confusing, but also family dynamic when it comes to the male supposed to be doing the majority of the work and the female uh, being head of household.
Hmm.
But it's very typical, I would say, from knowing the people that I know, most of them are Hispanic, that they suffer from daddy issues. Their dad is never there. They're usually somewhere else or working, or went to work about 5 years ago and never came back. And it's something that's like ongoing, so far as that it even spreads to the children. So the girls will find their own paths. They typically don't talk to their parents, type of thing. So that's a similarity between the both of us.
Hmm.
We go off on our own path because the males were usually more important.
If I were your therapist, what would you want for me to know, or how would you feel? How would you like for me to act that would make you feel comfortable when coming to therapy?
Um, I don't know. I think you made me feel comfortable enough to voice my opinion, especially about my race. You could have, a mini bar or something. Just kidding.
Um, as we close, if there was one moment that made you feel less comfortable, can you share what that was and why you felt some discomfort?
Um, I didn't feel really any discomfort at all.
You with questions? The questions were,
No,
it was good.
no. I like it when people ask me questions like that. It makes me feel like they actually think
But
about my race,
yeah,
instead of
like
just
they want to know really about you.
yeah, instead of just thinking that I am Hispanic because
Hmm.
that's what I look like.
And finally, what could I have done differently to help you feel more comfortable?
Um,
I know you mentioned that you were already pretty
yeah.
comfortable.
Me trying to think of things. I'm like, well, McDonald's.
Well, I just want to say thank you for this conversation and for allowing us to talk about this topic, even though it can be a little personal. So during this conversation, I heard you say the following, which has made an impact on the way I think and the way I will do therapy with individuals. Um, you really didn't have much critique for me, but I had my own critique with it. Just more about um, I kind of feel like I can be a little bit intimidating if I'm asking questions and kind of looking at people.
Yeah, it just has a lot to do with like nervousness. Like
Okay.
we're both nervous to talk about it,
Yeah.
and you're nervous to know what I'm gonna think.
Yeah. I don't want
And
to make
everybody
anybody
has
uncomfortable.
no, you
So that's
don't.
what it
Everybody
is.
has a
But
different reaction to it, and it's if you can understand, then I can understand. That's where it should be, I guess.
well, thank you again. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.